Welcome back to the shop build series. So here we are, this is video 3, and what are we going to talk about today? We're going to keep moving on. So the first video was budget. We'll just do way up here. Vid 1 is budget. Vid 2 is the pad prep. And 3 is now driveway and leveling. All right, so we have the pad that's been basically prepped. Again, it's a little bit higher than our finished grade. We're gonna end up stripping that off, same as we did before. And now we need a way to be able to get to this pad. So we're gonna do the driveway. So if you remember before, our house driveway kind of comes over like this to the house this way. We made a small little offshoot that goes to the shop here. And there's like a line of trees that we demolished there. And then that gets you to the pad here, which our shop is going to be a small portion of. So if you remember, we have 25 feet all the way around the building. That's extra of the pad, and we put stone more than the shop. We're gonna get into why in a second, but that's basically what you're looking at in this picture. Now, we know that big heavy trucks are now coming, and the amount of dirt and mud that got tracked in this house driveway here that used to be nice is crazy. And you may say, well, you're done with the mud, who cares? It's gonna matter, you'll see. So I want a shop driveway, if you will. I want another way to get in here where all the trucks and everything can go that leaves the house driveway alone, because concrete weighs a ton. The building itself weighs a ton, and it'd just be kind of nice to have another way to get to it in case. So, what did we do? Our pad here is roughly 300 feet set back. So you could just go and do a straight driveway like this, just right out to the road or whatever. It's not what we ended up doing. My wife was very against having it look too industrial. So what I ended up doing was putting a little swale to it like this, which makes it a big pain in the neck for trucks to back down or get down, but it's not really my problem. You know, I need to make my wife a little bit happy. We spent a lot of money here, and she's letting me do all this to spend a lot of time out here making videos for you guys. So if it's a little swirly thing in the driveway with a couple trees, that's what we do. So it's 300 feet straight. Let's say this is 500 feet, I have no idea. What I did was we had the bulldozer here to help level out some of that stone. And again, I ended up striking a deal with a huge trucking company here in the city, and that was for all the clay we needed. It was about 240 loads. We needed roughly 80 loads of stone, so we're up just over the 300 mark at this point, and now I need more for this driveway. So what I did was, while we had the dozer here, right before they took it, I wanted to knock this thing out. And what's the best way to build a driveway? Free. So what I did was, this driveway is really long, and I need to start with a base. Same thing as we did with the pad. We started here at the pad, stripped this down to the clay level, and we pushed all the dirt this way. And we got that down to clay. Once down to clay, same thing as back here, we're down about 18 inches. We need to start coming back up. So I went and found a bunch of cement blocks. You know, cement blocks you build a foundation with or whatever. That, your normal brick. I found cement chunks that were for like a fence post. So we found those. Let's say, I don't know, that's my cement stuff. So I found this. I found about 16 truckloads full. and it was out of sight. It was free. I had to pay to truck it. I had to pay to remove it, however that was. So I could have used a hand shovel. I could have thrown each one of these into a dump truck by hand. Didn't matter. It was on me to load it and get rid of it. So we went back to the same place. I rented the sheep's foot roller and the smooth roller to do the pad, and I got a front end loader. I'll put a picture in here of what I'm talking about in case you guys don't know. Super easy to run. It's kind of like a car. It's got a steering wheel, gas pedal, brake pedal, forward or reverse, and there's a joystick to move the bucket. So it wasn't that hard, and there was a big, huge pile of this stuff. So I got the loader the night before, went over, and I did everything that I could to break those bricks up. So I took the bucket, put it, on that little cavity there, started smashing them, breaking them, doing everything that I could, chewing at that pile, kind of loosened it up. The trucks came in the first thing in the morning, and I loaded them personally. I threw all the stuff in the truck. The truck went over and dumped it. We started here, and we just kind of worked our way down. So we had 18 loads all the way down the driveway like that. Once we had all the material here, I had the bulldozer again run over top. He started at one side, I started at the other with the loader, and we smashed all those things up. Why might we want all this trash, you might say? Well, it just so happens this is the best stuff you can put in for a base. It's the same as using the big rock that we talked about in the last video with the smaller rock on top. Once you snap all this stuff up and it starts interlocking in, that air gap that you might think is in there is gone. And a bulldozer makes real quick work of it. It has those big metal tracks, and you can get on top of it and kind of twist and turn like this, and it just snaps those blocks up. And then with that big loader, obviously it weighs a lot, and you have the bucket, you can snap it and move it and bang it and whatever. So we were able to smash all that up we were able to get it, put it in place, smash it all up and everything in about 7 hours. So now you can drive on this, but it's really not ideal. Once you start driving on these big blocks, you have your weight of your vehicle on one block, and it tends to push it down and sink it down into that mud. So what we did, same thing, is like I said, they're a huge trucking company. They were doing a job where they were ripping out a road and putting a new road in place. This was a couple months after the whole COVID thing started here, and things were starting to get back up. I mean, everybody's cautious, but things were actually starting to move again. So they had what they call reclaimed asphalt. And what it is, that 2 to 4 inch size rock, and it had little millings from the asphalt. I brought in 6 loads of that, and we capped this whole driveway, if you will. So now you have that big rock base with the smaller rock on the top with some of that asphalt milling. And let me tell you, that is super, super, super sturdy. We were driving dump trucks to and from in here now, no problem at all. So it was real quick and easy. I think it took us a day or two, and we had all that done. So now we can get all the dirty stuff that's got to come in, the dump trucks and all that stuff, off of the house driveway down here and over to the site. So that takes care of the driveway. Done. Next, leveling. So this is a critical part of setting up any shop. I do remember telling you that when we started, this was about 5 feet lower than the house, which wasn't ideal. We ended up bringing it up at this point about 4 feet at this point. So how do we know that it's 4 feet lower, or it's 1 foot lower than here? 1 foot lower than the house, and it's actually flat. You want to have this thing pretty flat at this point. Again, it's not perfect by any means, but we want it damn close. You do not want the ground to be like this, because putting up a building, walking over that, whatever, it's gonna suck. So here's what we do. We set up our scope. We need to start laying out the building. Well, let me get rid of this. All right, so here's my house. I want the shop to sit perfectly parallel to that house. It sits a little bit further back, but I want it like this. I don't want it up here on an angle. I don't want it down here on an angle. I want it so that when you're looking from the road, they sit perfectly straight to each other. This may seem like a really easy task, which it is, but it's a little bit tricky because the buildings are offset. If it was a straight shot, it would have been easier. So I knew that I wanted this dimension in here, 100 feet. So what we do is grab a tape measure off the house, measure out 100 feet, and there we are. We know we have this mark. I also knew where I wanted it to start versus the house. So 100 feet out here, we are able to set up a scope, which you'll see a video of now. And once we're set here, we know exactly where we want to start shooting. So a scope is a really easy piece of equipment to use. You can rent them at any local rental yard near you. And all it is really is a tripod that you level, and it's got a telescope on the front, or a scope like on a rifle, something like that. What it does is it has a scale that has all the degree markings all the way around. So you know where, let's say you start here, you know where 90 degrees is, you know where 180 is, you know where 270 is. So we were able to set that in the spot we wanted, 100 feet off, and where we want to start on the house, turn 90 degrees, and now I can measure over and tell you where that corner of the shop is. I can also turn 90 degrees this way and tell you exactly where that one is. Stretch your tape measure out here, stretch your tape measure out here, and it'll tell you exactly where you want to be. Off of these two marks, you measure out this one, you measure out this one, and where those two intersect with the tape measure, that picks your last corner. So that's close enough right now for what we want to do. Now that we know exactly where the shop is going to sit in our pad, let me get rid of this. Let's put our pad back up here. We know exactly where that shop is going to be. We dropped a stake in each 4 corners. So we know roughly where that pad's going to be. We have stone now that needs to be wider than that building, but I'm not going to pay for all the stone to cover that whole entire site that we stripped. Why do we have to put stone wider than the building, you might ask? It's really simple. Like I said in video 1, we went ahead with a footing and a foundation type foundation for this building. You need to dig a trench to put all of this concrete down in the ground to be able to start. Where does that trench go? You guessed it, it's going to be centered on that wall. Now, you have an excavator. Everybody on here, I'm assuming, knows what an excavator is at this point. It's that tracked machine with the big arm in the front. It digs like this. That machine needs to sit level. Exaggerated, if that's a track, you have like the bottom of the machine, and this is a track here. If that was on level ground, you can imagine the trench that you dig, or the hole that you dig, is straight down. If this track is, let's say, 8 inches lower than this track, your trench now is on this weird angle over here like this. So it's really hard to put a straight object or a straight foundation in a trench that's cockeyed. So what we did was, we know where the shop is, take a tape measure real quick, and just make sure that, you know, that machine that we got was 7 feet wide. So we went 10 feet out on the outside of that building so that we knew we had plenty of extra room there for the track. We didn't have to worry. Now that we know what size our pad needs to be, we need to level it. Again, that scope's already set up. What you're gonna do is you have the scope, somebody run a scope, and you have somebody with the measuring device out here. You just walk around with a stick, spray paint on the ground. Does it have to go up, down, 2 inches, 5 inches, 1/4 of an inch? Luckily for me, one of my really good buddies runs heavy equipment for a living. So again, same place I rented the rollers and everything, I went back, rented a skid steer, and he did the work for us. This whole pad took him about 3 hours, and he was done and gone. A couple cases of beer and he was out. So worthwhile investment. Let's go ahead and roll that footage. So as you guys can see, we're nearing the end here. We probably have 30 feet or so to go from here just to those stakes. From him right there all the way over there is all done now. Give me 1 second here. Down half. So we have this big pile here and that big pile there that was extra due to that pumping situation like I was telling you about. So we'll use some of this to go up near that truck there for that driveway, and then we have another driveway here. So I mean, it's not like it's going to waste. We were going to need it anyways. It's just that it's in the wrong spot, I guess, here instead of over there. But like I said, we're getting close. I will show you. Here's some of the clay, the pumping we were talking about. So you can see the clay here popping through. So we'll scoop that out and then fill it with rock and pack it down again. There's another one there, another one there, another one there. A couple more little spots here and here. So there is some popping, but I mean, it is what it is. So let's finish this up. All right, so the pad is now flat, as you've seen in the video, and we have a driveway, so we're ready to start digging a trench. Come back next video, I guess it would be, and we'll start doing that process. See ya.